What am I doing with my life? Greetings viewers, if you click the video link, you're here to hear me babble on about subguns and pistol caliber carbines, so let's talk about them. What are they? What are they good for? Why should you or should you not get your hands on one? I have a couple options on the table here in front of me. I'll adjust the camera in just a second and we'll talk about it. If you watched my Bullpups versus SBRs videos, some of the information will pertain to these weapons as well, and then you'll have some of that information to kind of apply as I, again, babble on about talking about these things. So let's go ahead and get the camera set up so you have a little bit better view of what's on the table, and we'll get to yapping. All right, so as you can see, I have a couple different weapons on the table here. They all have been cleared, are safe. There is no live ammunition anywhere near where I am because safety is paramount. So first of all, over here, we've got a Glock 21. This is a 45 ACP Glock pistol. This is a 45 ACP Kriss Vector. This is a 9mm SIG MPX, and this is an 11.5-inch barreled 5.56 rifle. These three weapons here are Form 1 with the ATF, so I do have tax stamps, I am official and legal. Please do not come and shoot my dogs. So, why do I have all of these different things on the table? Well, each one of them kind of represents a different use case scenario. So you're not going to throw this into an inside the waistband holster and go walk around your local mall, and you're probably not going to be taking 300-400 yard shots with a pistol. So again, they each have their own strengths and weaknesses and use case scenarios. So what is a subgun or a pistol caliber carbine? Well, the PCC acronym kind of hides that, but when you spell the name out all the way, it kind of gives it away. It's a carbine weapon that shoots pistol caliber ammunition. So why would somebody want something like that? Why wouldn't you just have a pistol or an SBR? Well, again, different strokes for different folks. I know tier 1 units around the world have used the MP5 to much success in many operations, so it's definitely got some merit to it. Clearly, they're not completely useless. So every single one of these weapons obviously could be, again, like I mentioned in my previous video with the, you've seen this before compared to the Tavor, these are all pretty compact weapon systems, and ideally, everything that you see in front of you here would be great for, again, maneuvering in vehicles, in structures around people, CQB situations. Potentially not taking extremely long-range shots. Yes, I know there are people out there that can do it, but we're talking about realistic, everyday, average Joe that gets their hands on a gun and what they're going to use it for. So again, as far as pistols are concerned, great for concealed carry. You can throw it inside a holster, cover it up with a shirt. Nobody knows you have it. A little bit more difficult to do with something like this. Usually you'd see people carrying around maybe a guitar case, a backpack, something that's a little bit easier to conceal one of these type of weapons. Potentially, depending on how short the barrel is on an AR, you can kind of squeeze that in there as well. Again, why would you want to shoot pistol ammo out of something you can shoot from your shoulder? Well, let's start here and kind of work our way up the hierarchy of heaters here. So again, pistol, great for concealed carry. You hear something go bump in the night, you've got it on your nightstand, you jump out of bed, you've got your pistol in hand, you can take care of most threats that are inside of your house when they're not supposed to be. Well, you can easily accomplish that same mission again with both of these. They're nice, small, compact weapons. They shoot the same ammo. The benefits that you get from these type of weapons over a pistol is you have those extra points of contact. So when you're shooting a pistol and you've got a two-handed grip and you're pointing it out there, you don't really have a whole lot of support in terms of, again, being able to put your shoulder up against this, having a hand out front and one on the grip. So you've got those 3 points of contact and you're able to get a little bit more stability. So you've got the longer sight radius, you've got the longer barrel. That's going to give you a little bit more accuracy when compared to a pistol. Well, what's the point of going that route? Why wouldn't I just get an SBR and have maximum firepower? And that's a valid question, and there's absolutely no right or wrong answer when it comes to that. A lot of these things come down to personal preference, but also if you take into account everybody has a different situation. So perhaps for you, you have a pistol, you have a subgun, you have an SBR, you have a bolt gun, you have 3 different types of shotguns for various events. Well, somebody else may not be in that same financial situation that you are and have the ability to buy all these guns, and perhaps they're looking for one specific gun and they want it to be sort of multi-purpose. Maybe they don't want to carry it around, they don't have a permit, their state isn't constitutional carry, but they want to have something to protect their house, and they have multiple family members that may end up getting their hands on it. Well, I can assure you that a child that would actually be able to pick up and manhandle any of these weapons, or your significant other may be smaller framed than you, and you've got this fancy tacked out AR that's got lights and lasers and flashlights and wind speed indicators on it, that makes it a lot more bulky and heavy, and they don't want to use one of those. So something like this is going to be a lot lighter. It's going to be a lot easier for them to manipulate and maneuver. And again, if you have multiple people that may be having access to this, perhaps you can operate one of these, great, but then maybe your spouse can't, and they can operate something like this, and you're thinking, 9 mils, pistol caliber rounds aren't that great. Well, unless you've got a bunch of dudes coming in your house wearing level 4 plates, most instances where you may actually need to engage somebody, even something as small as a 9 mil or even 45 caliber pistol round is going to get the job done. So speaking of weight and size of these weapons, when compared to a traditional AR, so we've got our pistol round, we've got our rifle round. The pistol round is much smaller than the rifle round, so therefore you're going to experience a lot less recoil with a weapon like this as compared to just the pistol. So when you've got two hands gripping this thing, putting your arms out there in a nice shooting position, this weapon is a lot smaller, a lot lighter. It's gonna subject you and your hands and your arms to more recoil. So you're gonna get a little bit more muzzle flip. Sure, maybe you have a compensator or the barrel's ported on it. That's fine. That's gonna take some of the recoil out. Yes, I know handgun rounds aren't that recoil heavy. Some people are a little bit more sensitive to recoil than others. Now, you take that same round that fires out of this weapon and you put it in something heavier like this that's got a bigger bolt, and it's going to absorb more of that recoil for you, as well as transferring some of it to your shoulder instead of just your hands and arms. It's going to make the recoil even less, not to mention the fact that this specific weapon itself, the way the bolt operates, it's designed to assist with pulling the recoil down and kind of fighting that rise as well. But if we're looking at something like this, again, it's heavier. It's got a bigger bolt, a bigger weapon. You got more points of contact on it, more stability. So you're able to control that recoil a little bit better with a 9 mil round versus a 5.56. So that again goes back to, again, your significant other or maybe your child shooting the weapon. Not only the weight and size and maneuverability of it, but the recoil itself is going to make it a little bit easier for them to operate and maybe feel more comfortable with it every time they pick it up and try and shoot it. The fact alone that these use pistol caliber ammunition also allows them to be in a more compact package, because if you think about it, the size of the 5.56 round versus say a 9mm, and you're looking at these mag wells. Well, the mag well sizes are obviously completely different. This one's a little bit shorter, which means the bolt is able to be a little bit smaller, which then overall the weapon is able to be more compact. So another thing to keep in mind is maybe perhaps mag interchangeability. If, let's say, again, you're on a budget and you're trying to make an educated decision when it comes to buying guns, and you're not like me and just buying up everything because it looks and sounds and feels cool and then putting a bunch of gadgets on it, and you've got to kind of be a little bit smarter. Let's say this is your carry gun, and this is your things go bump in the night gun, because you want, again, that little bit more stability. You're going to put a flashlight, a laser, whatever optic on it that you want, and you don't want to have to buy proprietary magazines, which, again, for the MPX you would have to do. So when we look at magazines, the MPX uses a proprietary magazine. This one is made by Lancer. It's clear smoked polymer with metal feed lips. The ones that are being made now are just an all solid black plastic, and they are supposed to work with both gens. This is a Gen 1 MPX, of course, when it came out. Couldn't wait to get my hands on it, so this is a Gen 1. I did change out the handguard. This is a Midwest Industries with M-Lock on it. So this magazine is not cheap, and you buy these, and they're $30, $40, $50 a piece for a magazine. Who's going to want to buy a bunch of those, and they can only go in one gun? So this is a 30-round ETS magazine. I like the clear mags. I can see my ammo count easily in it. This magazine is interchangeable because this particular weapon uses Glock magazines. There's a lot of other pistol caliber carbines out there made by various companies that utilize magazines from different manufacturers such as Glock, Colt, Smith & Wesson. So if you're a Glock guy like me and you've got Glock pistols and you get your hands on a Kriss Vector that uses the same pistol caliber as your handgun, this is an empty handgun, it's clear, you can see, and it inserts in this handgun. Yes, it sticks out a little bit, kind of goofy looking, but you know what? When someone's doing something they're not supposed to be and I'm drawing this thing out, I really don't care what it looks like. So I'm gonna have a little bit, again, less recoil control, less stability when compared to something like this. So this same pistol magazine I can pop out of my Glock here, and it's going to insert in my Kriss, and it locks in, and this is the magazines that it uses to fire. So I've got 30 rounds of 45 ACP available in a small, compact, shoulder-fired package with less recoil and more control over follow-up shots than I would with a pistol. Also more real space for fancy gadgets. So that could be a factor in determining whether you want to buy something or not. If, again, you don't have the money for a whole bunch of things, you want to be smart about it, and you're going to have something that uses the same mags as your pistols, that's a great option, and you have a little bit more functionality with this. I can throw this in a backpack and take it with me on a trip or put it in my truck when I'm bumping around in case I need it for something. Whereas again, if I buy these magazines for this weapon, they only go in this, and then now I've got to buy a supply of Glock magazines and a supply of AR magazines, so that can also be a determining factor for somebody. So just because it doesn't apply to you doesn't mean somebody else couldn't make use of that information. So we talked about these being a little bit more lightweight, compact than compared to a short-barreled rifle. Now, if you think about it, they're lighter, smaller, the recoil is less from the rounds. In theory, if you were to put yourself on the shot clock and run this weapon versus this weapon, again with plenty of practice, they do have all the same controls, this particular weapon. The SIG MPX uses AR triggers and internal components here. The safety selector switch, pistol grips, all that stuff is interchangeable with an AR. The controls are all exactly the same. So if you are an AR shooter, something like this is ideal in terms of your manual of arms being the same. You're just, again, shooting a weapon with a little bit less recoil. Now, because this is lighter and has less felt recoil and you can make those follow-up shots faster, theoretically, if you were to put yourself on the clock shooting this SBR versus this Subgun, you should be able to drive this weapon faster when it comes to transitioning to targets or getting on target, as well as making those follow-up shots. So yes, this weapon may have a little bit more firepower, but somebody may have a little bit more trouble with those follow-up shots because of the recoil versus something like this. So you're able to get more shots on target. Again, pistol caliber weapons have been doing their fair share of damage for as long as they've existed. So anybody that kind of poo-poos on a 9mm or a 45 caliber bullet, when compared to 5.56, yes, they have different use case scenarios, but if I'm not going out and making a 500-yard shot, there's nothing wrong with me having this next to my bed for when things go bump in the night. Now I'm going to clear these two off the table and we'll do a little bit of size comparison here. So my girlfriend always tells me not to compare sizes, but sometimes I feel like it's appropriate in the name of science. So we've got this line here where these two buttstocks are lined up. These are both collapsed to their smallest position, which I mentioned in my SBRs versus bullpup videos. Not ideal for either of these. I like to shoot them at least at their first extended position. So we'll go ahead and fix that. So now we're going to compare apples to apples here. We've got our line that comes down. The stocks are the same. You can see this weapon is a little bit shorter. Obviously the barrel length on it is shorter. This is not an 11.5-inch barrel on here. Now, we talked about small compact packages when it comes to, again, things go bump in the night, CQB operations, moving around in vehicles and people. You want that smaller package because it's easier to maneuver. You can throw a suppressor on either one of these weapons. Now think about the length of a suppressor and where it's going to come out here. So it's going to push the length of your weapon. So you got this short compact SBR and then you throw a suppressor on it. Well, now you've just extended your barrel length even more. When it comes to the pistol calibers, they are a lot easier to suppress in terms of the actual noise suppression that you get. Most of my 5.56 and 30 caliber rifles have AAC 51 tooth mounts on there. That is because I have an AAC SDN6, also tax stamp, so I can use that interchangeably among those weapons. I cannot put it on here because they don't make one for 9mm. Now, again, that's going to push my barrel length out and make that weapon that I wanted short and compact to be even longer. As this stands, it's already shorter than the SBR, so even if I put a suppressor on it, it's still going to be shorter than the SBR with a suppressor on it, and you're going to get even better noise suppression than you would with the 5.56. Yes, there are lots of good suppressors out there. Mine works great, and it is hearing safe shooting this particular weapon or others in 5.56, not saying that the suppressor won't work. However, it works even better on a pistol caliber. So if you do have a suppressor or you're wanting to suppress a gun similar to this one, then definitely a great option, and the suppressor is going to do a great job for you, depending on, as long as you get a good quality one and it's not something you made in your garage, which is not recommended. Do things legally so you do not get in trouble. Now, this particular weapon here has a 3-lug mount with a small brake on it. I have this because my future intentions would be to get a suppressor to put on this thing that uses a 3-lug mount, and to go with that I have a different rail. So I've got this rail here, which would again, extend my length. So let me go ahead and swap that out real quick. All right, so I've got my longer rail on here. The barrel ends here. As you can see, with this, the way this is, if I were to get a suppressor that fit down inside of this handguard, because of course that always looks cooler when it's shrouded by the handguard. So even with these guns lined up and this handguard on here extending the length out, I'm still probably, you may not be able to see it very well from the angle that the camera is looking. However, I'm still maybe 1/4 of an inch shorter than this SBR as it stands, and I can throw a suppressor on here and get pretty close to the length of an SBR without a suppressor on this weapon with a suppressor. So that short compact package is going to come in handy. So another point in the side for PCCs or subguns. Now again, if you do not have a tax stamp and you go the pistol brace route, just keep in mind that that's kind of, as of right now, up in the air. You may be watching this after that's been decided one way or the other, and it may or may not even be an option for you. So you may have to stick with a 16-inch barrel, or again, go the route of registering it as a short-barreled weapon. So not only are PCCs and subguns fun range toys to have, and they look cool, and they're small compact packages, but they do serve a purpose, and they can serve you well. So anybody out there that's telling you a pistol caliber weapon or anything smaller than 5.56 or 308 or 7.62 by 39, whatever their particular favorite caliber is, that's great for their use case scenario. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has their own needs, wants, desires. Again, I just kind of go out and I just kind of buy all the things that are really cool that I hear about, and so far I have not been let down by any of the cool things that I've bought, specifically this MPX, which I would like to, in typical fashion in my videos, and I'd like to keep alive in my channel, is we're going to take this thing out to the range and we're going to shoot it. It's a more close quarters oriented weapon, so we are going to be shooting from 21 feet again, and we're going to put this thing through its paces and see what kind of damage we can do with it. So I'm going to shut up and we'll head outside. All right, so here we are back at the range. I have 2 fresh, clean targets set up. The last video I did, I used old targets, so I didn't even bother showing anything. But we're shooting 9mm and 45 out here today. So let me set the tripod up and get started. All right, so like I mentioned, these weapons are a little bit lighter, so it is easier to throw them around, hence overdriving them a little too much too fast. So some of these headshots were a little too high. These are acceptable. Main target, took most of them where we needed them. Again, driving to the second target, trying to do it a little quick. We had some throwaways. This was the first transition we did over here. Went way too far. Had to reel it in a little bit. Got some outliers there, again, just trying to go too quick. So let's see what we can do with 45 ACP. All right, so you can see the 45 caliber holes are slightly bigger than 9, so a little bit easier to pick out which ones are new. Had to run it a little bit slower. I don't have an optic on it right now. It has iron sights, so it takes a couple fractions of a second longer to get sight picture in. All right, so it's always a good day when you can go out to the range and send some rounds. Like I mentioned when I was out there, this gun is a lot lighter than the AR I've been shooting as of late, so it's really easy to overdrive the gun. Again, just gotta slow down, find that balance of speed and accuracy. Most of our shots were pretty well on target, and I'm pretty happy with that. I did have quite a few malfunctions with the Kriss, though. I'm not really sure what was going on. I had issues where basically the bolt was overriding and slamming the rounds in weird positions. So I'm gonna have to now look into that and find out what's going on. The MPX, on the other hand, ran like a champ. There is one thing that I did not mention about this weapon specifically. So the stock that I have on here is the kind of collapsible MP5 style stock that most people prefer and looks really cool on these kind of weapons. Although even when it's collapsed in its smallest position, it is sticking out still a significant amount from the gun, because you do have the base piece here and then this section of the and this rear section of the stock here that is the one that slides in and out and goes against your shoulder. I do have another stock that I got originally for this gun before this stock. This one is a side folder, and the way these attach to the MPX and MCX style weapons, there's a rail back here with a clamp. If this thing is attached to the weapon, it folds, and when it folds, this is going to be its final position. So you're going to lose all of this. So in this particular instance, let's say you were looking for a weapon like this, you wanted to put it in a backpack, or you want it as small and compact as possible. This is going to give you the smaller profile. It does fold to the left side of the weapon. You are still able to fire the weapon. It does still function just fine. This weapon does not use a buffer tube, so that doesn't matter. It's not going to cause you any issues having a collapsible stock. The other thing that I failed to mention in the original section was the cost of ammunition. So if you are choosing to shoot a pistol caliber weapon, such as again a 9mm versus a 5.56, your ammo options are more than likely going to be a little bit cheaper. You're going to spend less per 50 round box of 9mm ammo, and most of the 5.56 you're going to find in 20 round boxes. And when you do the math, usually the 9mm is going to come out on top. Or that may be a reason that sways your options on picking a weapon as well, again, along with the other things that I've stated previously. So hopefully you guys and gals found this video somewhat useful, entertaining, educational. As always, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I am open to any sort of constructive criticism or feedback. If there's anything I can do to make my videos better for you, please feel free to let me know. So with that, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.